A very good evening to all the experts, distinguished guests, my colleagues from the government, public sector units, industry, WaterTech companies, and friends. It's a matter of great pleasure for me to attend this Global WaterTech Summit and WaterTech Summit and Awards. I would like to compliment the organizers for the initiative which encourages innovation and technology in the development of water sector. Frankly speaking, last 2 hours have been a great education and learning for me. I'm quite an outsider to the water sector, just been less than 3 months in the Department of Water Resources in the Ministry of Jal Shakti. But as my previous speaker, the former secretary said, during the course of our career, we do encounter cross-sectoral issues. And the earliest encounter as district collector is been on the destructive side of the water when you deal with the flood control and the flood protection, the pre-monsoon inspection. Both the district Kapurthala and Patiala that I served were having the history of floods, but fortunately my tenure of 4 or 5 years at 2 places was without any incident. The next encounter was as Commissioner Municipal Corporation, Ludhiana. That was more direct, both in terms of water supply, wastewater, and also industrial water. And as someone said, the cardinal mistake that Ludhiana city did was mixing industrial effluent and domestic sewage into the same conveyance system. And they could not really recover from that for last 30 years. Now I think they've found a solution. My third encounter with water was as industry secretary. And that time you championed the industry's cause with others in terms of how the burden of treatment should be reduced, how we should be lenient to them in terms of enforcement. As the luck would have it, I switched the side and joined as environment secretary. With NGT at your back, you were kind of, again, advocating a very different set of norms and policies. So these were my encounters with water before I joined this Department of Water Resources. But yes, here in the ministry and what has been part of the discussion, it's earlier the water used to be business as usual. Even in my crucial role as Commissioner Municipal Corporation, I don't think we were sensitized to that extent what we today feel, how we need to deal with the water. And I'm sure this kind of conference plays a great role, and that's what the previous speaker is saying. We need to take this conversation down to every forum at every level. And the theme for the summit, that innovation for water and wastewater management, is very apt. The key challenge in water sector obviously is to ensure water security for all, which broadly includes, the first part is very important, the sustainable provision of adequate and acceptable quality of water. And that's where the role of water resources development that Chairman CWC talked in great detail, for sustaining livelihoods, for socio-economic development, including agriculture, energy, industry, and recreation. The second important aspect is also the service delivery. Even if the water is available, unless we provide universal and sustainable access to water and sanitation services for all, including the equity aspect that the speaker told. There are remote areas, there are areas which are not getting service. That's very important, and that's a key challenge. Protection against water pollution, and it's a discharge into all kinds of water bodies, streams, flows, and both the surface and the groundwater contamination. That also is one of the key challenges and also part of the water security that we envisage for the country. Preservation of ecosystem and biodiversity, I think that's where our former secretary started. We are delinking, we're looking at a very single objective planning. So if you're looking at irrigation, agriculture, you're only looking at agriculture. You're looking at drinking water in rural area, you're only looking at that. I think that's not going to work. You have to ensure a much bigger purpose for water, a much integrated planning for water, so that ecosystem and biodiversity also is a very key challenge. We cannot separate that, we'll deal with it later, because it also impacts all your other objectives that we think probably are not linked. Some of the key initiatives, I think the Chairman CWC had given you a big overview of the programs, and I will not deal with them. Just to recapture, Jal Jeevan Mission, which is a flagship scheme, because right to life, right to water is also recognized as right to life. And so it's only important that we accelerate availability of that, even if there are challenges that we need to solve. Amrut 2 similarly deals with the urban water. Even in the urban areas, you need to really ensure 100% coverage. National Mission on Clean Ganga, because the rivers have suffered badly. And so the program, even if you treat the wastewater, probably you don't need an independent program for river. But then we have ended up in a situation that you have to really create a special program to make sure that nothing, the wastewater doesn't go and spoils our river system. Jal Shakti Abhiyan, because we've realized that unless people are partner in your efforts, there's nothing, only a technological solution, and the public funded programs will probably not suffice. And so taking it from the other side is the Jal Shakti Abhiyan. The National Hydrology Project, we realize when you're planning for this kind of a resource which is so versatile, which is so interconnected, unless you have huge amount of data, every aspect of this, it's not going to work. We are still on our journeys, but this project really is very ambitious, and it's giving us a good basis for planning, and that data is very useful. Prime Minister Krishi Sinchai Yojana, again, creating that infrastructure is very important. Atal Bhujal Yojana is another attempt at groundwater, and how do we make sure that we are sustainably using our groundwater. Groundwater management and regulation, including aquifer mapping, so that we had started. It's complete now. All mappable area, which is about 25 lakh hectare, the maps are complete. And there's a lot of dissemination which is happening. How do you use those maps at different level? There's another dam rehabilitation and improvement program, again, improving the operational efficiency of what you already have. That's a big program. It's a very meaningful program. And so these are the initiative of Government of India in developing water resources and managing it. But friends, again, like today's key theme of innovation, we all realize that challenges of water management are increasing and becoming very acute. The regions are same, rapidly growing and urbanizing population, growing water demand for cities, agriculture, industry, energy. Also the challenges of water pollution, climate change, and water equity, that's coming to the fore. And in the face of these challenges, our business as usual approach will not be sufficient to address these challenges. And that's where the science, technology, and innovations, they can play a significant role in addressing these water sector challenges, and they should probably be mainstream. They need to be not only as an external influence or from the outside at the periphery, but they need to be your mainstream solution for addressing these challenges. And so accelerating innovation from technology development and implementation thereof to financing mechanisms to collaboration platforms will be crucial to progress towards water security, climate adaptation, and sustainable growth. So like I said, without going into any of the technical details, because we've had experts, we've given us a vast overview of every aspect of water. There has been a deep dive in some of the schemes, what Mr. Rana dealt with Jal Jeevan Mission. I'll only talk about how do we mainstream innovation and technology in our planning, in our strategy, in our solutions. So some of the barriers to innovation and the use of technology in water sector, the sector has historically been conservative. Water is not an economically driven or a private sector led initiative. It's been risk averse. It's been slow to adopt innovation. I mean, that's a reality. The competition and the markets are the key drivers for innovation and technology. And the water sector, again, has limited private sector participation. That also restricted somehow the amount of innovation which should have happened in the sector. Lack of alignment between research and sector. Yes, there are institutions which are doing research. There are people who probably are building solutions. But very clearly articulated sector needs the challenges, and then aligning them with the research efforts is another gap which needs to be recognized. The speed of innovation from ideation to exploitation is another cycle which needs to be shortened as much as possible. And the need for greater integration of water sector security. So you might be doing something in groundwater which has a bearing on surface water, which has a bearing on supply side, on the climate. So you cannot today restrict yourself to a very narrow tunnel, and therefore the research, innovation, technology also has to be aware of this interconnected nature of water its larger meaning across sectors. And then better understanding of national testing, validation, and demonstration facilities, because every technology before it's put to use goes through a cycle. Someone has to validate, someone has to certify, someone has to. So those processes also probably need to be better understood by people who are working in technology and innovation. And I'll just touch about the three key pillars which I feel can really help us mainstreaming innovation in our sector. One is the public sector, the private sector, and the innovation ecosystem. In terms of public sector, obviously it's at the forefront of water resources management and water service delivery, and therefore it has to seek innovative solutions while addressing the challenges of water sector. You saw the Jal Jeevan mission, and that's what was illustrated, that right from the planning to implementation to O&M stage, they're trying to induct technology as much as possible, and that's the right approach. Every program of the public sector, and there are a lot of programs which are being led by public sector, has to transform itself to encourage innovative solutions. And whatever it is trying to achieve must focus its strategy on never and never solution, not that knowing that there is a set of solution which is to be implemented. The public funded scheme should also support innovation. We have usually these schemes, different components that you spend this money in this fashion. They probably need to be designed in a way that have to have flexibility to bring innovative solution. That requires a different mindset. So all our schemes probably need to be sensitive to ensure that we also need to get innovation and technology which may be evolving. These are not given, these are not fixed. So that level of flexibility in the schemes has to be envisaged. And public sector understand the challenges because they are at the cutting edge, they are there to deliver, but probably not articulating them very well. So it's also important that the experiences of public sector are very clearly articulated in terms of the problem statements. And if they are precise, if they are very clearly specified, I'm sure the innovators, all those who are involved in technology can work towards finding solution. And then we have a huge R&D sector, in India, in public sector. So those R&D organizations and academia can also play a huge role in promoting innovation and promoting technology. So in the public sector, there is need for much greater engagement, enabling them, leveraging them towards innovation and technology. So I think water sector must try and strengthen that. The second important pillar is obviously the private sector, the water industry. And the role of private sector is expanding in water, as we saw in Jal Jeevan mission. The new pipes are being laid, the new pumps are being used. Even in irrigation, the piped irrigation network are adopting a huge, recently saw a project which was from dam to field. Everything is underground. 40 megawatt of power is being used in pumping the water, but then they have covered 1.4 lakh hectare of area. Every outlet for 5 hectare, you can see what is the status, how much pressure is there, how much water is being pumped into. I mean, it's something, even urban water does not have that, what we've seen that model in irrigation. And so the amount of technology all these projects have been implemented by private sector. There are 5 agencies which are working on that. So the private sector role as we expand the water market, as we expand the water sector is going to be very crucial. And private sector needs to invest in innovation and technology in their own organizations. They can also support and invest and mentor the startups and the small businesses, because the big corporates often get into bigger plans and they are more methodical about it. The smaller businesses have more flexibility to develop new solutions. They have that urge also. But the bigger sector, the big corporates can help buy those solutions, nurture those solutions, and integrate. That's how the world is working. Government also needs to engage with industry leaders and industry associations for water innovation. We have to be on the same page. We have to have a shared vision and a commitment to challenge, to find solutions to those challenges. There are government schemes which promote innovation. There are plenty of them, but probably somewhere the private sector, maybe it doesn't fully understand or is not fully aligned. So that's another area where probably we in the government can work with private industry and bring those schemes that, here is a support system available, here are the schemes available, here is a funding available. Even the recent last 2 budgets, there is an R&D fund which has been set up. It's a cross-sectoral fund. Anyone can access that fund, both for basic research, for applied research. There are plenty of schemes, but maybe we need to have more dialogue to understand how you can benefit from, the private sector can benefit from those support systems and create more innovation and technology. Some of our procurement and regulatory policies also need to amend to really encourage new solutions. And how do we procure them? Because the government procurement systems are also quite stringent. They don't really allow that flexibility of something which is new, something which is not tested on that scale. So we need to really look for wherever required changes. Similarly, regulatory policies often also dictate very particular kind of systems. They also need to understand, in case you want to promote innovation and technology, the regulators also have to be flexible within whatever standard that they work. The third important pillar is innovation ecosystem. Innovation has its own dynamics. Nobody can dictate terms. These are all results of multiple connections, multiple networks. So we need to identify those innovators, startups, technology firms, and engage with them to understand what support probably they need, even if they have to find their own motivation, but there is some support which the government can provide. There are a lot of innovation intermediaries. There are incubators, there are accelerators which pick up ideas, which pick up these startups, which pick up early technology companies, and they understand how do you take them to fructification, how do you take them. So these intermediaries also, we need to work with them, strengthen them, and the more you have such intermediaries, the better output in terms of innovation and technology in our sector will come. Engaging with venture capital industry and risk capital providers. These solutions, you have to be prepared. Many of these may not really succeed. But unless we are open to failures, we would probably not find innovations and technologies. So that's very important. There are funds which are available. There is a venture capital industry. There are people who provide patient capital, capital which looks at 20 years, 30 years return, not immediately. So it's very important that in water sector innovation system, we find those kind of players, we network them, we benefit from, those. And much like I said, industry can support the smaller and medium businesses. They can also support startups, and they also need to work together. So you as a big corporate or water industry, which is big, has understood a challenge, but they may not have time, inclination, energy, that kind of dynamism to really address all these small changes. Here is a dedicated set of startups. They could come out with many brilliant ideas, solutions, which you can then scale up. So these are the points which can strengthen innovation ecosystem. So with these 3 pillars, and the last is how do you integrate all of them? Because if all of them keep working in isolation, again, the result will not be same. So I urge all stakeholders in water sector to join hands, connect and integrate into what could possibly be a water innovation network. Such a nationwide network. Excellence is happening, startups are happening, technology is happening at multiple places, somewhere in the state, somewhere in the city, somewhere at the national level. But today, we can easily connect with each other. There are virtual platforms, there are systems. So we could have some kind of water innovation network across the country, connecting everyone. Everyone is doing something, but keep exchanging knowledge, keep learning what's happening, where are the problem statements, where are the solutions, keep matching them. So that kind of water innovation network could be very useful, and it can really help us accelerate innovation and technology. Department of Water Resources, Ministry of Jal Shakti will support all such initiatives for promoting innovation and technology in water sector. I would once again like to thank the organizers for this initiative and inviting me to share my thoughts with all of you. Let's make technology a key driver for transformation of water sector. Thank you.
Please give a big round of applause for our chief guest. Thank you so much, sir. It is a pleasure having you program. It's indeed been an honor listening to you and for your wonderful insights.